Alastair!
Alastair!
David!
Laura!
So then we have to do Blueyology as well, don't we?
Oh,
To
Blueyology.
overlay
Yeah.
Bluey.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay. Blueyology!
Hello and welcome to Blueyology. I'm Alastair McIver. I'm joined by fellow Blueyologists David McMillan and Laura Guthrie, and we are here to hold every aspect of the hit children's TV show Bluey under three very silly microscopes. To let you understand what kind of show this is, if you're the sort of Bluey fan who always plays Bluey first on Wordle, this is for you. Okay. Usual disclaimer applies. If the kids are listening, you might want to stop them listening because we will not be held responsible for anything we say. And today we're going to talk about 2 episodes of Bluey, Barbecue and Fruit Bat. Shall we start with Barbecue? Yeah. What did you make of this one, Laura?
I had heard many strong word about it, so I didn't quite know what to expect when I started watching it. I thought for the most part, actually, it was quite interesting, and there were nice touches in it. It was one of the kind of more structured ones than some of them. I didn't like a certain bit in it which kind of went almost like slapstick cartoon. I don't know if you want to do a summary of the episode, Alistair, which is why I'm being a bit vague right now.
Yeah, okay. I'll tell you what happens in the episode. Basically, the adults have a barbecue, which parallels the children's pretend barbecue.
Or the other way around.
Or indeed the other way around. And these 2 barbecues are one real in the traditional sense of the word, one real in the less traditional sense of the word, where you can't actually eat any of the food. Kind of share a space and interact and collide, and all sorts of silliness happens. And in the middle of this is Bingo, who just wants to relax in her relaxing chair, but Bluey and Muffin keep sending her on errands to produce an ever more elaborate salad. First appearance of Muffin this episode. Well, back to you, Laura. Finish saying what you were saying.
Well, the way that Bingo's sort of the salad items in it, her kind of criteria for interpreting what they get her, red peppers, yellow peppers, green peppers. It seems to have two points. It has to be a plant and it has to be that color. Other than that, anything goes. So she's, going over the place, sort of whacking red flowers off things and whacking yellow flowers off.
How do you make salad? Isn't that the usual way?
I generally, if someone says a red pepper, I generally add a pepper, but that just shows what a boring adult I am, probably. Maybe I should try it Bingo's way. But yeah, so and then there's a part in it where they decide, I think it's Muffin sees the adults putting the dressing on their salad, and it's like, oh right, we need the dressing too, just when Bingo thinks she gets to finally relax. And so Bingo gets sent to find some dressing, so she decides to do it out of sort of mud. And the hose pipe, she loses control of the hose pipe, which is sort of going all over the place with the force of the water and splashing everyone. And so that was the one bit that I think kind of went into cartoon territory in a way, which I haven't seen in Bluey yet, so it felt kind of incongruous in a way. But I love the way it sort of extricated itself from that. I have to say.
See, I think quite a lot of it was quite cartoonish because no matter what Bingo does, something hits Bandit. You know, and it's just a kind of law of cartoon physics that everything is going to rebound on whoever's the butt of the cartoon, be that Wile E. Coyote or Daffy Duck or Bandit. So I think that the whole episode is a bit cartoonish.
I would raise an interesting point about that, though.
Go on then.
If I can, if I'm not jumping in too much.
No, go for it.
Well, my point was sort of there is a twist at the end of the episode, as I see it, because at the very end of the episode they get called for the real barbecue, and Bingo's sort of furious because nobody actually mentions the salad that she worked so hard on. You know, and then everyone sort of goes, yeah, salad, and make a point of going that, and Chilli, who really doesn't seem to have been, you know, paying any attention to what's going on with the kids, just says, you know, something like, thank you, Bingo, and then says, now you can relax. And I thought that was kind of an interesting twist on it, because I was kind of confused all the way through it, going like, why isn't anyone actually, you know, why is she getting away with whacking all these plants and, you know, soaking the entire party and everything? Maybe the soaking bits, you know, in Australia is hot enough that that's actually a welcome thing. But it's like, why isn't anyone actually raising a point? And it's that kind of thing made me think, oh, they've been watching all along and they've seen what's going on and they've let them sort it out between themselves. And that was quite, that's like, was kind of like, brought a nice conclusion to that. So that kind of put the whole everything hitting the adults and getting in the way and getting messed up, it kind of put it all in context.
Yeah, I think that's part of the kind of free play ethic of the Blueyverse, is that adults generally aren't going to stop you, except there was one moment when when Bingo was about to step on a wooden bench to access one of her salad items, and Bluey, and I'm forgetting everybody's names, Delilah. It's awful.
It's after lunch. You're allowed to be sleepy.
Yeah, okay. I'll just have a nap and you two can talk about it. Chilli comes along and just says, that's not safe, Bingo. Lifts her down and takes the bench away. And I think Chilli got that wrong. As a parent, I totally let my kids stand on chairs and things to turn lights on and off. It's part of the kind of natural resourcefulness of children, and I didn't think that but you know, if they actually had to like stand on a rocking horse or something, you know, find something that actually is unsafe that would justify Chilli's position there. But I think Chilli was being a bit of a ball bag there. What do you reckon?
Not crafty in any way, because Bingo's all the way through going like, Dad, can I borrow this? And then they're going, hey, and things. And, you know, Chilli needed that bench right then. It wasn't just a pretext to sort of quickly whip it back when she needed it for a change.
Well, that could have been quite a cool moment if somebody had attempted to sit down on the bench that isn't there anymore, you know. Another cool slapstick moment, but they didn't do that. They just had Chilli going, that's not safe, away we go. And I don't think Bandit would have done that. I think Bandit's a lot more kind of secure about these things.
But it's fitting with Chilli's character in some ways, I think, because she seems to have a lot more kind of predictable rails to run along.
Do you have any thoughts, David?
Well, I was just going to come in on that point to say that a pandemic's a great way to figure out that even in a sort of parenting relationship, that everyone's got different levels of risk that they find acceptable, and I suspect that balance exists in Chilli and Bandit's relationship too. One of the moments that's like a defining memory of the pandemic for me was when I said to my wife, like, let's go out, you know, somewhere, and it was public transport for the first time in a long time. And I said, yeah, it's funny, since the pandemic now I'm risk assessing everything in my head. And she said, do you not do that anyway? I was like, no. She said, oh no, I would always think about like what roads we're crossing and thinking through the process of doing something prior to doing it. That's something that I don't plan. So so that side of it is quite interesting. It's not something that I thought about while watching it, but just listen to you guys talk about it, that's quite an interesting aspect.
Well, at the risk of bringing gender stereotypes into this, I have to say, neither do I. I don't really believe in gender stereotypes as a thing, so I don't want to say, oh yeah, that's a man thing. But I don't know, there might be a tendency in culture for
it might not be innate, but it might be conditioned on a level that's too subtle to really be aware of in some places or some families or whatever.
So I did have some thoughts about this episode in general, and a peek behind the little curtain. We kind of hastily put this call back by an hour because of scheduling communication, and that gave me time to watch this episode properly because I hadn't watched it. And this probably says more about my state of mind than about Bluey. But while I was watching this and watching Bingo's behaviour and watching how Bingo was exploited, I mostly thought this is a metaphor for like capitalism. Like Bingo is there, she's relaxing, she just wants a quiet, peaceful life. She's not doing harm to anyone, and she's just given this like set of increasingly unreasonable like requests, without any like explanation or like any like there's no pats in the back or anything after the end of each one. It was just an increasing expectation, and I thought, holy moly.
So Bingo was the exploited proletariat, and I would guess that Muffin is the exploitative boss, because Muffin is sitting there not doing anything, and is interpreting these requests as requests from Socks, so it's who can't talk yet. So it's so Bingo is Muffin is kind of passing the buck there. Bluey, I think, can legitimately ask Bingo to go and get errands because she's cooking the pretend sausages. So
I think Socks is the people who have spoken.
Sorry?
You know how they say the people have spoken to, they justified that for Brexit and things like that. So Socks is the people who have spoken.
I think Bluey's in the role of like labour regulator that's got too much on and can't do their job properly. Because she's there, she's like, it's all happening in the background while she's busy with other things. Like if she was paying attention, she might have been like, no, that's a bit unreasonable to ask all of this of this person, but I'm too busy cooking to do anything about it.
To be fair, she's not usually very protective of Bingo in that way anyway.
No. Which is very I see Bluey and Bingo's sibling relationship as being very true to many sibling relationships I've observed and been part of.
Well, the one thing I did have the thought of, it's the metaphor for capitalism. And when I have a thought like that, I generally do try and think before I let myself think about that, I do try and think what the other side of it could be. As a sort of, I don't know, just I have a tendency to get ranty unless I do that, so it's my way of checking it. But I did sort of think, and it was also based on, what's the parallel of that in the adults, because they've already established very clearly that this is a sort of, what's happening with the children is mirroring what's happening with the adults. It did make me think, people go, just get me a pepper, and she has to go all over the place and find it growing and get it and bring it there and things. There did feel like there's a message about consumerism there as well, because if you say like, oh, get me a cup of tea, well, somebody's grown that cane and then cut it and refined it and brought it there, and there's a lot of, or get me a bar of chocolate. Well, I mean, there's very little relaxation goes on in the production of chocolate at ground level, so I wondered if there's some of that too.
In later episodes, it's funny you should say that, but in later episodes, and this is a kind of recurring theme. Bingo and Bluey have an obsession with butlers.
Oh.
Butlers come into all of their pretend games and all of their elaborate fantasies. There's always a butler. And when they pretend to be queens and they kind of have an argument over who's going to be the queen and who's going to be the butler, they both want to be the butler. So I think that the idea of being of being the worker who does all this stuff really appeals to them. It certainly seems to appeal to Bluey and to Bingo. And at no point when Bingo's being sent on all these errands and she's getting increasingly haggard and mucky and exhausted, at no point does she say, "Get it your fucking self," you know.
Well, she wouldn't be allowed to. It's children, so they would censor that.
True.
I think that's.
I know what you mean.
Maybe not those exact words, but that sentiment.
Yeah.
Do you think your observation about that, Alastair, might be related to Australia's complex relationship with the monarchy?
It could be, because the episode I was just talking about, which we will get to, so I don't want to talk too much about an episode we're not on, but the episode I was talking about, Queens, does seem to kind of take the piss out of the whole idea of the monarchy quite a lot. And whilst the children do have a kind of childlike reverence for the monarchy, it's not written by somebody who does. So the Queen is often represented as a little kind of posh looking toy dog who shows up at tea parties quite a lot. You can't have a tea party without the Queen, obviously. So yeah, I think well, I need to find out more about exactly what happened, but I believe Australia had a referendum recently, like I mean within the last decade or two, and decided to keep the Queen for reasons I can't quite fathom. So it's a talking point over there. It's definitely a talking point.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, yeah, that seems in the nicest possible way quite short-sighted.
Yeah.
I have nothing more to say than that.
We wouldn't want to alienate, you know, our audience by going into too much detail on that anyway, would we?
Can I say something I really enjoyed about this episode?
Oh, go for it.
I love the continuity of little snippets of conversation between the adults. Like, so he doesn't listen to his father at all. He's just out into the sheep like that. And then the next thing we knew, there were 5 sheep in the trailer. And
yeah, I've actually got notes on that. And the farmer's yelling, "It's dog versus sheep," and yeah, and I think what they were watching is sheepdog trials.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
My wife is completely into sheepdog trials because she used to watch them a lot when she was a child. And it was one of the things that I found quite surprising when I first got into a relationship with her. I was randomly channel hopping, which is a thing we used to do with the large wall-mounted devices. I was randomly channel hopping, and she went, "Ooh, sheepdog trial!" And I was like, "What?"
A deep, dark secret.
Yes. So yeah, I've watched sheepdog trials with her a couple of times, and it's quite exciting, you know, especially when they make it like Scotland versus England. You know, you
when a pig turns up.
Exactly. Well, the Queen usually turns up at some point, but she's a Labrador, and yeah, so I think that they were watching Australian sheepdog trials and talking about that. In the meanwhile, the ladies are having a conversation about flea shampoo.
Oh yes, yeah. How it keeps the ticks away.
Yeah. Chilli says, "Don't you just hate that dog shampoo?" And which seemed a weird thing for her to say because she's a dog. So surely it would just be shampoo. So I thought that was a weird thing.
Is the farmer a dog or a human?
Interesting question. And if the farmer is a dog, then why doesn't he round up his own sheep?
Yeah, maybe
You
it's
know?
just like a sausage dog or something can keep up with the sheep. Actually,
Yeah.
sausage dogs are pretty
Snickers' dad is
fast.
a father, is a farmer.
Sorry?
Snickers' dad is a farmer. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then later, Chilli says, "Tell me about it." Bandit had one right behind his ear, and he went, "Ow!" So his
Oh, I didn't get that bit.
the adult conversation is always very kind of muted, so you have to listen very carefully to tell what they're talking about. And that's kind of a running joke throughout Bluey because it kind of creates an equivalence of adult conversation, which is completely irrelevant to everything, and the children's game, which is always the main point, and the adults are all just talking shite about
It's just noise.
whatever, you know. There's a later episode in which somebody on a Blu-ray forum pointed out that actually talking about Stranger Things, and I hadn't noticed that. So it's really cool. It's worth listening in on the adult conversations because sometimes they're just completely nonsensical and irrelevant, and sometimes you can kind of glean an idea of what they're talking about.
I just had an idea about that, which is, if the farmer is human, and sort of the dog shampoo that they hate implies that there's a human involved putting it on them, or else why would they use it if they hated it? It's like it kind of is almost like the puppies don't really know much about humans, but maybe the grown dogs do. Because I mean, like when you look at a load of puppies, the parent is the go-between. So the puppies actually know each other and the parents much more for a while when they're very young. So maybe that's the same in maybe that's where the humans are in the Blueyverse.
I don't think that there are humans in the Blueyverse. I think everyone's a dog, and it's as simple as that. When you see cricket on the telly, it's dogs playing cricket. When you see
what I mean is, like, if it's purely from if it's a lot from the children's point of view, then perhaps it's just that you never see them because they're not. It's like how children, I remember somebody asking a 7-year-old, "What do you think tax is?" And she sort of looked put on the spot and then said, "Is it a disease?" So there's sort of concepts in the world that children's just would never occur to them about the adult world. So I kind of wonder whether they treat whether possibly that might be a thing, but I kind of am leaning more towards what you think, but that just made me wonder.
Yeah. See, I think that the farmer's probably a dog and the sheepdog are more like farmhounds.
Okay. Yeah, because it doesn't listen to his dad, it didn't say owner or anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Do we have anything else to say about barbecue? Okay, well, we go on to fruit bat. Okay, David, do you have any thoughts about fruit bat?
No, because I watched it quite a long time ago. I mainly remember the sort of dream bits, which were quite fun, but I'm not going to be much use for the next 15 minutes or so, so I'll mostly be responding to informed people talking about fruit bat.
Okay,
maybe
so
things will jog your memory.
So fruit bat is the episode where Bluey wants to stay up late and the parents do not want Bluey to stay up late, and that's a point of contention that is replicated throughout the world of parents wherever there are parents. Bluey learns that fruit bats get to stay up all day and sleep all night, and decides she wants to be a fruit bat, and eventually has a dream that she is a fruit bat. Laura, did you have any thoughts about this?
I did. There was. I love the dream sequence. I've got a total earworm from that music now. It was just like so upbeat. The thing I didn't like about it was, every time she said she didn't want to go to bed. She didn't, she wished she was a fruit bat. Well, then you wouldn't get to play the story game. Well, then you wouldn't get to play penguins and stuff. It was great seeing the games, but I found it slightly got on my nerves every time she said that, penguins, and she went, yeah, and things, because in my experience of it, when you got that kind of, oh, I don't want to go to bed, I wish I was a fruit bat, there's a bit more of a resistance against things like that. It's like, yeah, but I don't want to play that. I want to be a fruit bat, and so that kind of got on my nerves that everything just went so smoothly.
I think you've put your finger on what bothers me about this episode. I've not quite disliked it, but I've not quite liked it as much as the others. And I think you just put your finger on why for me. It is too easy. They come around to Bandit's way of thinking too easily every time, and the parents win, and I just think it needed a little bit more tension, a little bit more anarchy, a little bit more nonsense. I mean, when we're trying to get Isabel to sleep, it's very much anarchy and nonsense. There is jumping on the bed, there's chanting of daddy poo poo, and
there was a little bit of that at the beginning when they just sort of, no, we don't play that kind of, that's a daytime game, and they're just like screaming out into the outdoors, and the parents are like, oh no, not again.
Yeah, but I think there are two things that I liked about this episode. I love the background music; it's just brilliant. It gets stuck in your head. Like, I love that. It's beautiful, and I love the concept of a tactical Wii. That was the bit that just cracked me up. It's called a tactical Wii.
that sort of whole little bit with Bingo there is something you would hardly ever hear an adult saying.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't get the camera just going like, I'm doing a Wii because otherwise I might wet the bed. It's called a tactical Wii. Like, you wouldn't hear an adult say that.
And it's just such a perfect little bingoism in the middle of what is fundamentally a Bluey episode. So yeah, I loved that bit.
Oh, hang on, I've remembered something.
Oh, go.
Bandit reading a story to Bluey and Bingo, and for one thing, being the center of the universe while he's reading. That's the thing that happens when you're a parent. You become the center of the universe when you're reading a story. That's pretty amazing. And the other one was, did he pretend to fall asleep while he was reading, or did he actually fall asleep?
Yeah, he pretends to fall asleep. He pretends to fall asleep when he's reading right at the good bit, and then they wake him up, and then he reads the next bit.
So pretending to fall asleep and actually falling asleep while reading are both things that I've done, like, while reading to my kids. So I think it's just another relatable moment of parenthood, really.
You have to be very careful not to actually fall asleep while pretending to be asleep, because usually you are required to jump up and yell boo if you're pretending to be asleep.
That's not the way the game works in my house.
We do have a game where we read a book and I say the wrong word and I say something ridiculous like bum, and it's like, no, that's not the right word, you said bum, and things like that. We also have a book called Bing's Noisy Day, which is just a pure concentrated evil in book form. And it's got little buttons at the side, and you press them to make noises, and you're supposed to press them at the appropriate point in the story. And yeah, that's not how it gets used in actuality. So I have to shout at the book for being a silly book when it makes the wrong noise at the wrong time and say, "You're a naughty book! You're a very, very bad book! Stop it at once! You miserable book!" And
I would pay for that, to see that like in an adult reading as well, like it's stand-up comedy or something.
That's my flawed strategy. I'm starting to see the flaw in the strategy now. Flawed bedtime strategy.
I mean, what do we think in general about Bandit and Chilli's almost like perfect parenting, because I mean I personally, Bluey casts such a spell on me when I watch it that I'm willing to forgive like a lot of the things that it doesn't get right, because I just think it's so amazing. But they're sort of perfect, aren't they? Like in a lot of ways, and they don't ever, you never see the when you lose your temper properly and then bad, shouting and all that stuff. That never really happens. At least it hasn't in any of the ones I've seen. So I wonder what we're kind of like view is on kind of maybe sort of editing out selectively some of the worst parts of parenting when you don't feel proud to be a parent.
I think that I think they kind of set the standard. I don't think they set the standard to aim for, because they kind of live in a dog utopia.
Yeah.
And we don't. So I think that there's a massive disparity between what they can do as parents and what we can do as parents. But I also think that after watching Bluey, I kind of upped my game a bit. And
Definitely.
it's not a conscious decision. Oh, I'm going to do that. Oh, I'm going to try and be more like Bandit. It's more you just absorb this energy from Bluey, and then the next time you see your kid, you just like pick them up and swing them around, and it's kind of like magic. I don't think Bandit and Chilli, especially Chilli, are portrayed in a great light in this episode, because when Bandit is having his dream that he's playing touch football, that he doesn't get to do so much anymore because he's always working and looking after the kids. Chilli is saying that while mending her hockey stick. So there's a kind of disparity where Chilli always gets to do the things that she wants to do. And I have never once seen Bandit actually doing a thing that he wants to do just because he wants to do it. Chilli goes out for a run and Chilli goes out to play hockey.
Do you think that's an anti-gender stereotypes type thing going on there? Like highlighting it, but by doing it with the parents like the other way round from the gender stereotype in that.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Doing the usual, but in reverse.
Yeah. Or I don't know about the usual, but the frequent.
Because very often when you see a sitcom with a family like Malcolm in the Middle or The Simpsons or whatever, the Simpsons, yeah, the Simpsons, the dad's an idiot, and Bluey usually manages to sidestep that one, and in the odd episodes where it doesn't, it drives me nuts because I'm like, you're letting the side down here.
Yeah. I sort of wonder whether that's they didn't realize quite what they'd unleashed. Well, I'm sure they did actually, but like you get 6 episodes in and the parents have never lost their temper. You can't exactly have them lose it on one particular thing, because then it sends the message of, right, there's no way you can deal with this. There is no amicable way to deal with it. In this case, yes, there's nothing to do but lose your temper. So maybe that's why it's a dogtopia.
There is an episode where Bandit hears a distant cry of Bluey, and just looking at, must be a different Bluey, and avoids getting involved. There's an episode where Bandit doesn't quite shout at Bingo, but it does kind of snap at her to leave him alone when she's trying to get his attention, and that gets him in trouble with the fairies. And I'm trying to think when there have been not quite perfect parenting moments. There are a few, and there are 1 or 2 when you can see a little bit of tension between Bandit and Chilli leaking through. But the program is actually kind of not about that.
Yeah.
So
you want parental tension and parents losing their temper, watch Pinky, because they do it, and they do it, but since they're plasticine things and their heads can come off and they can roll in sort of hoop shapes and flat shapes and stuff, it's maybe not quite so like confronting as it would be with Bluey, where they're not quite that extreme in their cartoonness.
Yeah,
I guess that's the other thing, is like parents fighting is scary, and it may be that it's just a step too far to, like you say, Alastair. It's not. It's out of scope. It's out of scope for Blue.
It's good they have the nods to. It's good they have the nods to the real experience of that aspects of it, though. I mean, that sort of makes one feel happy that it's noticed and acknowledged within the kind of. I am going to sound unhelpfully academic when I say within the paradigm of it.
Paradigm's a good word. I love the word paradigm.
Oh, good.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you.
Applause all round for use of paradigm.
Thank you, everyone.
I sometimes find it helpful to use paradigm instead of genre when genre is completely the wrong word. You know, like science fiction isn't a genre. It's every genre, but within a setting where things happen that don't happen in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say the science fiction paradigm rather than genre. It's a useful word for that. I like the word paradigm.
I always thought of the word paradigm kind of more like paradigm to genre as ecosystem is to biosphere.
Okay, you're gonna have to explain the difference between those two words because I thought they were
within the biosphere you get different ecosystems. So within the sci-fi genre, I would say for each different fandom you would get a different paradigm. Within each different canon you would get a different paradigm. Like this is what it does and how it does it, and that's the sort of thing that flies in that world and doesn't in the other.
No, I think it's the other way around. I think that the paradigm's the big one and the genres are the wee ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the way you spell it as well. There's a random G in there that just because I think the G fancied going into that word. It was just like, hey, I wonder if I can crash this
it's
word.
It's trying to be like right and might and sight and slightly failing.
Yeah. But paradigm, it's like, yeah, nobody's gonna expect me sneaking in next to the M. You know, I know what it is. The G is photobombing the word. So the G is holding its camera up like that. And the M is like, oh, fuck off, G. Yeah, that's what's going on in paradigm. Well, that's the paradigm of paradigm as I see it.
Now you made my brain go all weird on paradigm.
Hey! Have we said enough?
It took about 12 utterances to get there. On it becoming utterly unintelligible to my brain anymore.
I think that's a perfect way to end on a Friday afternoon.
Good note to end on, and we'll see you in the next paradigm.
Very good.